Well, hello, welcome to Lesson 7. We only have 2 more full weeks, this and next, in this introduction to Christian ethics. And this week we're going to be looking at ethical breaches. What happens when we have an allegation of an ethical breach come to us? Now, I think we've talked about this in the past, that we each have those issues, if you will, those situations that really catch us, that will catch our attention, that will make our hearts beat more quickly, that will bother us more than others. And it is so easy in those cases to react rather than to respond. So let me start by saying that if you are given, if you hear of an ethical breach, right, someone comes and tells you of an ethical breach, your responsibility is to be non-anxious. If your heart starts beating faster, if you're realizing you're breathing a little too quickly, your head is getting a little muddled, or thoughts are racing too quickly, step back, take a deep breath in 5 and out. Notice too that if you slow down your breathing, it will help the other person relax and slow their breathing down as well. So when you are handed an allegation of an ethical breach, take a deep breath and blow it out. No, just let it out. Practice with me for a moment, right? And out. If your lungs don't handle 5, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, out. Breathe with me again. You'll find your body settling. Your mind will probably settle. The thoughts are going to be channeled into that breathing. It is very important that we respond rather than react. You want to listen to the person, you want to listen very carefully, very closely, but what above all you need to have is this allegation put into writing. It's easy to go and to speak about something, but for any ability to move beyond what's being spoken to you, you have to have it in writing. Otherwise, whatever you say to somebody else is second hand. We also find that in times of ethical breaches, particularly with ministers, if someone is not willing to put it into writing, that there may be something else that's going on there. They don't want to be caught in an absolute as writing can be, but we need to be able to say, we're not able to do anything with this. I'm not able to carry this on. If they say, I just want you to know about this, then the question we ask back is, what do you want me to do with this information? I don't want to put it into writing. Someone may say, tell me why. I'm afraid. I don't want it to get out of hand. That I'm going to walk with you. We're going to walk this together. Okay? If this is an ethical breach that is about a minister, you have the responsibility to call your judicatory minister. In the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, that's going to be your area minister. If you're in a region with an area, it's going to be your regional minister if you're with a region. If you're in a United Methodist Church, you're going to call your district superintendent. If you're a Presbyterian, you're going to call your presbyter. And I'm not sure if you're Lutheran, you're going to call your bishop. So you see what I'm saying? You need to take it to that person who is responsible. This is not for you to deal with. If you're dealing with clergy, you have to give that over, and you may not, please, you cannot and you may not hold on to this information. Say it's a minister who comes to you and says, oh my gosh, I've really screwed up, I did whatever. You say, again, what do you want me to do with this information? And if it is a clear ethical breach, then to say to them, let me go with you to talk to our bishop, our DS, our area minister, our regional minister, right? Let me go with you. our bishop, not to leave out our Lutheran brothers and sisters there. Let me go with you. How do you know if it's an ethical breach? If they're saying, I'm not sure whether it is or not, just they're asking the question says that there may be an ethical breach there. For those of us that have that covenant of conduct that has an ethical document, then that's going to be our guide. And we're not going to try and get out of anything. It could be, as you look at that together, well, you know, that could fall under that. And if it could possibly follow up on it. In our systems, we have processes. You're not going to be damned right off the board with it. There are committees of ethics and discipline, committees of review. It will work with you through these dynamics. And if it's something serious enough that your judicatory minister, right, the denominational minister that is responsible to and for you, and you to and for them, if it's something that they see to be important enough, then it's important enough. Okay? If this is a case of endangerment, that somebody is in danger or has been placed into danger, you have to call your judicatory minister immediately and counsel with them before going to the police. Okay? This is being responsive rather than reactive. Now, the difference would be that you couldn't get a hold of your judicatory minister, but you have somebody there saying, I'm going to murder so-and-so, and they're really serious about it. Not just, I'm so mad I could just murder them, right? You want to work on that with them a little bit. But matters like these, when I receive them, if in cases when I've not been able to reach my regional minister in past settings, then I'll call a counselor that I know. And if you ever need a counselor, Bob Eichenberger here in central Missouri is the greatest person to talk to. He can refer you, he can give you counsel until you can talk to that regional minister, even if it's your presbyter or your bishop, however that works. And I would suggest that you try and get their cell phone number or call them during office hours and say, you know, if I were to become aware of an ethical breach, what is your counsel? How would you want me to proceed with that? I want you to call me. Great. How would I reach you if that's after hours? Right? You want to make sure you never abuse the trust of having those cell phone numbers. If that's what they give you, how will I get in touch with you if that were to come? And if they say, oh, is there something I should know? Please tell them that you're taking this Christian Ethics, Introduction to Christian Ethics with Mid-America Center for Ministry, and that this is part of your assignment for week 7. Okay, so there's that piece. Again, we want to respond. We do not want to react. We want to not keep these pieces to ourselves. People say, well, I want to be anonymous. I want it to be held confidential. But if people are being hurt, that person or someone else, we have to ask them how they want us to proceed and what kind of help that they if they need help going to see whoever it is that they really need to speak to. With all of this, when we talk about response, I want us to remember that the biblical standard is reconciliation. What we're trying to get to is reconciliation, not just response, not retribution. Okay, it's not ours to punish, right? When it is about restitution and trying to make things right, and that is, praise God, while it is not our decision. It is that Committee on Ethics and Discipline, and if you ever have the privilege, and oh my gosh, it is a huge privilege to get to sit on something like Committee on Ethics and Discipline, please remember this word, reconciliation. This is a full restoration. Reconciliation says this person can be more than they were, right? Or this relationship can be more than what it was before this breach. Doesn't happen overnight, isn't going to happen in just a few years, probably doesn't happen in prison because reconciliation is not something that's taught in prison, not even in prison ministries. What we're trying to do is find out, how do we return this person to full stature, knowing that we can never be sure, right? I worked with a case many years ago of an ethical breach with a minister that was never followed up on. All we had definite proof. There were allegations, there was definite proof of that. That was no secret, but the person stepped out of ministry rather than almost as an alternative to the denominational officers not following through on that situation. And the person, word came that they were doing some supply preaching at a church not too far, well, maybe about 50 miles actually from where this breach had occurred. And that was, it came to the attention of their denominational minister. I was called in to consult what to do. The denominational minister called that minister and said, listen, we need you to step out of that pulpit supply. Otherwise, we're going to have to tell the congregation why it is you've had to step out. We've never dealt with that ethical breach. And then they were given the opportunity to do some dealing with that, to have some counseling, to make sure as could be, that they had addressed what had led to that ethical breach. And we said, I advised, they said, let's keep working this towards a reconciliation. How do we make it possible for you to return to ministry? Here's the truth. I have no idea how that happens. I really don't. How do we make sure? How can we be assured? Unless they've done counseling, they've done restitution, they've done everything that needs to be done, and a long time has passed, and we've been able to see evidence that they're pretty likely for this to not happen again. But still, can you ever be sure? But the truth is, how can we ever be sure about any of us? It's going to be with that self-care. It's going to be with having that covenant of conduct that will hold us in place. It's going to be having an accountability partner. All of those pieces are important. And if you have someone, a leader in your church, of a minister colleague, that they're really walking on a line, they're walking a tightrope, ask them who their accountability partner is. If it's a leader in your church, talk with the leader and get that person onto a plan of accountability, a plan of counseling. Remember, you're not the person to counsel them. The time that they're going to need to take care of that, the opportunity to step out of leadership, to take a sabbatical until they make things right. This is a hard one. In your responses to the questions, the discussion questions this week, let's look for that idea of reconciliation being key. Let's work the Callahan challenges that we've had. As we look at some of the examples in there, let's ask in there as well, what could reconciliation have looked like? What can it look like? Once again, I appreciate your honesty, the depth of your responses, the depth of your responses to one another. I'm enjoying reading your posts, your papers. This week there's another paper due, right? That self-care plan. And think of that less as a paper and really about a self-care plan, a realistic self-care plan. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Next week, I have a surprise, and it really does rest in that self-care plan. So in the meantime, have some fun, take care of yourselves, and have a great week.